Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Spider-Man, the new animated series, even though this doesn't say the new animated series. This is a series that came out in 2003, right around a year after the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film, and that blew up. Was for the longest time the biggest grossing Marvel movie in a long time, even more than X-Men. X-Men came before that, but this, I was doing some research and trying to differentiate it. But I want to show you something here. You cannot find this on Disney Plus unless you do some research or some hunting and picking. If you go to the main thing and just put in Spider-Man, you're going to get a bunch of all the different Spider-Man things. By the way, the first three Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans are now on Disney Plus, plus Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew, and then the first Tom Holland one is also coming in May, along with Venom, the first Venom. So we've got a lot of Spider-Man finally coming to Disney Plus, even though it's a Sony property technically. But yeah, you can get your love of Spider-Man now on Disney Plus. But there's also a lot of animated shows, and it's really hard to tell them apart. If you start typing in Spider-Man new animated series, this is not going to come up, because this is simply called Spider-Man, which makes it really difficult, because the previous Spider-Man animated series was from 1994. This is called the new animated series. If you Google it and search it on IMDb, you come up with this exact thing. But out of all of this, you gotta find the one that looks like a video game character for the most part, and that'll be your one. And it'll bring you to this, the 2003 version, and it only has one season. I lose track of this. It has 13 episodes, and it's meant to kind of hold you over between Spider-Man movies. It feels like this thing would have been released on MTV. Maybe it was. I couldn't find any information on it. But it stars Neil Patrick Harris as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker. I think originally this was supposed to be an adaptation of Ultimate Spider-Man, which came out in 2000, Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley comic, which was an alternate reality of Spider-Man that started in his teen years. But then, unlike the 1960s version that came out in 1962, from Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. My brain just not working. So they kind of modernized Spider-Man, sort of created a separate Ultimate Universe, which had different modernized versions of all the Marvel characters we know and love in the comics. And eventually, that's where we got our first look at Miles Morales, when that comic book, spoiler, Peter Parker in the Ultimate Comics died. And Miles Morales stepped up to become the new Spider-Man, which then, of course, he got molded into the main Marvel 616 universe. And then, of course, he got his own movie, Across the Spider-Verse, and now there's a sequel coming out this summer. There's so many Spider-Man stuff. And, of course, this is 2003. So, I'm going to deal with the animation first here. This is very 2003. In the rise of everything being digitally animated, this is sort of it looks like a product of its time. It's got that feel to it. Everybody's impossibly thin and tall. All the human-looking characters, all super thin and tall. And they kind of got bobbleheads, and everything's like cel-shaded. It feels like you were watching a long video game cutscene, which isn't necessarily bad. It's a different take, of course, on this standard traditional 2D Spider-Man, or even the mixed animation that we get from some of the later iterations of animated Spider-Man shows, which has 2D backgrounds but 3D animations that when Spider-Man swings and moves around and stuff like that. So rather than having that kind of mixed stuff, this, going back to the original thing where I said it was supposed to be Ultimate Spider-Man, when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man blew up and did big, they decided to adapt this into Spider-Man, the college years, even though does not look like Tobey Maguire, does not sound like Tobey Maguire. It is, and it's kind of, its only really main connection with the Tobey movies is the fact there's an MJ who looks nothing like Kirsten Dunst, and who played by Lisa Loeb, singer, songwriter Lisa Loeb, and Harry is blonde, not by James Franco, but by Ian Ziering. You might know him, I guess, 90210. Is it Melrose Place? One of those, 90s soaps. He's Harry, and this is actually a very mature. This is kind of meant for adults. That's why I said it feels like it kind of would have been the kind of thing that would air on MTV as compared to a kids network, like a Cartoon Network or anything else, because this is not the kind of thing you'd watch after school or on a Saturday morning. This has alcohol references, like they're in college, and Harry just steps out of his dorm room holding a martini glass. When Max Dillon gets picked on, yes, Max Dillon, if you know who that is, we start this show off with him being bullied by other students, and he is played by Ethan Earing. Why am I saying that name wrong? Ethan Embry. Blah. Yeah, I said that very wrong. Ethan Embry, That Thing You Do, amongst many other things. He's being bullied by the local fraternity, and eventually, of course, gets struck by lightning and turns into Jamie Foxx. No, he doesn't. He does turn into Electro, though. It's in their own style of their own version of Electro, which we never got, of course, in the Tobey films, so that was safe. Well, we did get those in the Andrew Garfield films, but so we got all these things going on here. The animation, if you can get used to it, it's all right. It's all right. What I do really appreciate about the animation is how they animate Spider-Man, how he moves. Just even when he's flipping or hanging from a lamppost, he's not just stock hanging from a lamppost, just still. You can feel it. You can see a sway in him. Imagine I'm upside down. His body sways a little bit under the lamppost as he's holding a conversation with Max or somebody else. It's interesting how he moves on a wall and not repositions himself. They took a lot of thought into that, and it's kind of really neat how they do that. But with the cell shading, it's 3D, but it's still got that kind of 2D feel to it. But because everybody is so tall and thin, it's stretched out. It just looks like the aspect ratio is off, or like they're trying to emulate some form of anime, which is fine, but it's still confusing. I'm not really sure. I keep thinking that maybe my formatting is off on my screen. I don't know. But what we get in the first episode, which really isn't the first episode from also what I researched, some of these episodes are really out of order. The 7th episode should be the first one, but this, I think, is how they originally aired. Because I guess maybe this was a stronger action episode to really draw people in between Spider-Man and a known villain, Electro. I have no idea. I only watched one episode, so I don't know what the 7th episode involves. But yeah, there's only 13 of these, and I know I'm going to have to add this to my list because I kind of eventually want to watch all the classic Spider-Man and all the classic Marvel TV animated shows, good or bad. It just behooves me as a Marvel fan that I should watch all of them, and I kind of grew up at a time where, yeah, I could see the 80s ones, but I miss so many. It's the kind of thing where, unless you're sitting down in front of a TV every Saturday morning and not on a bowling league, a child bowling league like I was, if you weren't on a bowling league, you missed it. And maybe the VCR wasn't set or whatever. We didn't really have VCRs also early in my childhood. So you weren't home Saturday, you miss it. So there's a lot of episodes of a lot of old Marvel stuff that I haven't seen. This is my chance to catch up on many, many things, and including one from 2003, which I pretty much ignored. I do not think I've seen any of this before. So this is kind of a treat. Now, It's just especially with the voices in this. There are a number of other voices. Ed Asner shows up in this. Keith Carradine shows up as J. Jonah Jameson. There was Virginia Madsen is Silver Sable. Michael Dorn is Craven the Hunter. Worf from Star Trek is Craven the Hunter. James Marsters, Spike from Buffy, plays Sergi. Makes me think isn't that the name of the Rhino? I don't know. Kathy Griffin is in this as Roxanne Gaines. Keith David, who always does a great voice, Agent Mosley. Clancy Brown, of course, shows up. There's just so many. Oh, John C. McGinley. Jeffrey Combs, also from Star Trek, shows up. I think there's they've created some original characters, and there's also some deep cut characters, but also some major ones. So I would not treat this as canon. This is not something you want to, between the Toby films. It may have been meaning to do that, but yeah, don't treat it as gospel storytelling. It's not. But it could be fun. It could be fun to check this out. But again, you have to work to find this. Just put in Spider-Man and you'll see all the Spider-Man stuff and just look for something that looks like this. So, or in the thumbnail of this video, you'll see what their thumbnail looks like. Anyway, trying to think what else there is, but May has begun. And we started off strong with Spider-Man. We're going to have some really soon ones that I've picked because, well, hey, the 4th is coming up. Can you guess what I'm going to have on the 4th? And the 5th is a big day also for Marvel fans. So, but I'll get to those later. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
478.
Still in the 400s. We're going to clear out the 400s this quarter. 478. Okay. Something tells me we already saw this, but it's possible we didn't. There's a lot of stuff that involves kings and kids and stuff on Disney. So, but if you haven't figured out what I'm going to show you here it is. The Kid Who Would Be King. That's the next movie we're watching. The Kid Who Would Be King on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. See you back here tomorrow with that.